Hey there, thanks for joining me in this 5th update for Blade RPG. We're doing pretty well so far, almost 25% of our funding, and we have a couple exciting promotion events that I'm hopefully going to be updating you on in the next couple of days or over the course of the next week. So be sure and stay tuned for all of those. Today we're going to be talking about magic in this update, and we're going to cover 3 particular topics. First, what a spell looks like. Second, how to use one. And lastly, how to write one. Right here we have the first page of the Blade spellbook. Included in Blade are 11 pre-built spells, so characters can start using their magic skill right off the bat. Some of these are Conflagration, Reinforce, Stabilize, Unlock, and Bear Mark. Each spell has 4 important components: the number of targets, the distance the target is away from the caster, the duration that the spell lasts, the action that is taken, and the element that is affected. Having a variation of these different ingredients can make the spell easier or harder. For example, an incantation is an instantaneous one-action spell. It's made and then it's over, so it contributes 0 to the minimum success of the spell. Other durations, such as Hex, which is the duration of the player phase, contributes 3 MS to the spell's overall minimum success. So the longer the spell lasts, the more targets, or the farther away a spell is, the more difficult it is going to be to cast. Some actions and some elements are also harder than others. So you're going to want to balance all of these factors when you end up building your own spell. But we're going to look at that a little bit more later on in the video. For now, let's look at one of these spells and use them as an example. We'll use Reinforce because it's relatively easy, only an MS 5, and it has an integer value. Reinforce contributes -X breakability to a particular weapon for the duration of the player phase because it's a hex. Breakability we haven't really talked about in any videos so far, but essentially all you need to know is the higher a weapon's breakability, the more likely it is to, break when you use it. So we want a low breakability, and Reinforce lowers the breakability of a target item. So how do we cast it? Like any other skill, we are going to make a skill roll for our magic. As you recall from the demo video, magic rolls are made with a D12 rather than a D10. This means that even if you have a max magic skill, a skill level of 10, you can still fail the magic roll by rolling an 11 or a 12. This mechanic reflects the unpredictability of magic in Blade, and also adds an air of suspense to every magic roll. For the sake of this example, we're going to use the stats for Ulrix, a sample character that comes with the Blade manual. Ulrix is an undead with a skill level of 10 and a bonus roll of D6 on magic skills. Ulrix is going to cast the Reinforce spell on let's say a barbarian's axe. Maybe the barbarian wants to go hit a troll really hard, but it's worried that his axe is going to break on the player phase. So Ulrix is going to cast the Reinforce spell on that axe to hopefully keep it from breaking. So this is just going to be another skill roll, made this time with a D12. The result is an 8. Because Ulrix has a skill level of 10, that is a success, and so we get to keep that 8. We also get to roll the bonus dice of D6, which came up as a 3. So we have 3 plus 8. The total roll is an 11. Now we get to see how reinforced the axe is. With spells in Blade, to get a numerical result, you'll take your roll, subtract the spell's MS, and you'll get your result. In this particular case, the spell's MS is a 5. As you recall, MS stands for minimum success. It's the roll you have to get for your spell to be successful, or for any action to be successful. So we rolled a 11, which far exceeds the MS of 5. So that means the spell was cast. But now we get to see how effective that spell was after it was cast. To determine that, we take the roll, which was 11, subtract the 5 MS, and we get 6. So the axe gets -6 breakability for the player phase. This is how you're going to calculate any numerical result for spells. If, for example, I'm casting a fireball, and say the fireball's MS was 5, and we rolled a 11, that means that fireball would deal 6 damage, because it's the MS of 5 subtracted from the roll of 11. This is a relatively simple way to calculate the results of spells, but it's also extremely powerful, because as characters scale up, they can use the same low-level spells to a much higher effect. For example, let's say that Oryx is a crazy high, level 20-something character who rolls a 25 on their magic roll. Well, 25 minus the MS of 5 is a result of 10. So if that level 20-something Ulric's character is casting Reinforce, then the axe would get a breakability of minus 20. Meaning the more or the higher level a character is, the more their magic roll can come out to be, and the more effective their spells therefore can be. So that's how you're going to cast a spell. You're going to make your magic roll, subtract your MS, and get the integer result for whatever your spell is. Not all spells will have integer results, though. Some of them are simply going to be all or nothing. For example, Conflagration. Conflagration also has an MS of 5. It has one target, it's a touch spell, an incantation, meaning it only lasts an action, and it conjures heat. So basically you open your palm and fire comes out just on your palm. It's a relatively simple spell for lighting fires, for example. In this case, there's no integer value, so you don't need to subtract your roll, subtract the MS from your roll. Instead, you just want to get that success, and then the action occurs. However, in some cases, the GM may put an additional MS on your spell. If, for example, you're trying to light wet wood on fire, then you may have to get a MS higher than 5. But that isn't for you and the GM to decide. As a player, all your responsibility is to get the MS listed for your spell. So that's how you're going to cast your spells. Now let's look at writing them. Writing spells is relatively simple. It's laid out across 7 easy steps. The first is to come up with a name. And to make this process easier, I'm going to write a spell of my own as we go along, so you can see just how it would work. For our spell, let's do something combat-oriented. In our last video, we had a trickster fighting a wolf, and he had problems with the wolf getting too close. So maybe let's do a spell that would push the wolf back. We'll name it Repulse, like a force push idea. So our spell is going to be Repulse. Its MS we don't know quite yet, but we'll put it right there, and we can fill that part in later. The next step is to determine how many targets we want our spell to be repulsing. If we choose one target, it contributes 0 to the MS, so the spell is going to be a lot easier to cast. We can also do target areas, which would affect a whole group of people or a whole space, but the MS for those is significantly higher. Since we're starting with probably a lower level character, we'll just choose one target. We only want to push one person away. So that's our one target contributing 0 to our total MS. The next step is to choose how far away our target is going to be. If we make it touch, then we can only cast the spell on people that we can immediately contact, but it only contributes +0 to the MS, so that might be helpful. Since this is a repulse spell, we're trying to keep people at a distance though. So if they're adjacent to us, that means they're probably too close already. Let's do a near distance. That contributes an MS of 5, but then we could push people away before they get too close. So we already have an MS of 5 from our near distance spell. Next, we get to choose how long the spell is going to last. Do we want this to instantaneously push one target away? Should we keep that target a near distance away for the player phase? Or we could keep that target away for the player phase and the GM phase, or even for the duration of the adventure. However, we probably only need to push it away once, because that'll buy us enough time to get away ourselves. So we're going to make this spell an incantation. It lasts for one action. So this will push the person away for one action and then drop them wherever they end up. So we'll make this an incantation, contributing +0 to our MS. Next, we have to find out what element we are going to be affecting. Each spell affects a particular different element. We don't as much get to choose which element as we do find which element fits our spell. In this case, nature is probably the best one. It affects plants, animals, and anything that exists without being created by another person. So if we're pushing another body away, say another human or another animal, nature is probably going to be the element that we are affecting. And that contributes a +1 MS. Lastly, we're figuring out what action it is that we are taking with our spell. Are we animating something, morphing something? In this case, probably moving something, because we are trying to push the character away. So because we are moving, that will contribute another +1 MS. Alright, so now we've finished choosing all of the ingredients of our spell. We have 0 because we're only affecting one target, +5 because that target is going to be a near distance away, +0 because we're only doing it for one action, +1 because it's a natural body, and +1 because we are moving it. So the total for all of these ingredients is going to be 7. That means our MS for the roll is a 7. Our result is going to be something along the lines of caster holds out his hand and pushes away a target up to a near distance away from the original caster, something to that effect. But now we need to figure out how hard we'll be pushing them away. To do that, remember, we are going to have to make a roll. And we're going to figure out how hard we're pushing them away every time we make a roll. So if you roll really high, you might push them really, really far, or if you're rolling really low, it might be more like a gentle push. So this is going to be the spell that you're looking at, and the roll will determine how powerful it is each instance you use it. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea about magic. The overall process is relatively simple. Any casting of spells is going to be a skill roll, just like anything else, except you're going to be using a d12 instead of a d10. To write spells, you'll just select the number of targets, the distance those targets are away from the caster, the duration the spell lasts, find the element that you're affecting, and find the action that you're using. Then add up all of the MS for those ingredients, and you'll get the MS for the spell. If you're including any integers or need a value to result from that spell, you'll just take your roll at the time of casting and subtract the MS from it, if you were successful. In this case, we weren't. If you have any questions about how to use magic, what magic looks like when you're using it, or if you have any concerns about the system, please let me know, and I'm happy to answer your questions or any comments that you post down below. In the meantime, please keep spreading the word and posting this video anywhere you think might be interested. Happy gaming!